everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is CourtniStarHeart. She's the author of How to Journey with Ayahuasca, Mushrooms, Cannabis, or Drums, Shamanic Secrets of the Medicine Wheel, and other books. This is not the only book that she has written. She's also a traditional spiritual guide, a shaman, medicine person, visionary artist and novelist who has been painting and showing for over 20 years, both in New York and New Mexico. She's the founder of the Church of the Natural Law and the medicine retreats of Finding the Force. So, this is my brief introduction of who Courtni is. And the full bio will be at the end of this video, I forgot to mention. So, the question that I love asking my guests is, who are you in your own words? How would you describe that?
I am still a very human being, an HU with a dash, human. And I'm very much aware that I have a spirit and I have the thing that connects it, and I have this body. I really enjoy seeing things that way and constantly being in touch with that dialing in process, that finding the force thing, where we stay in a flow and we recognize that we're not just the vehicle, we're hopefully the driver. And I groove on that. That's my jam, is helping people,
Yeah.
I guess, like drive their vehicle better. I like analogies. So I do
Yeah.
groovy things like
Yeah,
this.
right. You got the vehicle.
There's this analogy of like a really sexy car. Like
Huh.
it kind of speaks for itself, like the convertible, the stars, the sweetness of the desert and that smell. I like that as an
Mm.
artist. So I'm a traditional medicine woman, but that really actually means a lot of different things. But it means, first of all, being able to convey an energy, usually through a ritual, usually through a ceremony. Like your flower of life has a construct and it holds something, that space. So maybe I'm like the flower of life too. What do you say?
Yes, yes. Symbols. Yeah, it's interesting. I just talked to you about dreams and visions. Yeah, they come in symbols. You see just pictures. It's interesting. And then when I see the picture of the car, I mean, I love your art. I have to say that too. So I guess the question's for you. Is that possible to navigate this reality as spirit without fear, even the fear of losing the body? Giving ourselves to life in a deeper way where we are. That fear is not there. The survival mechanism is not there. We're just completely free, lost in a way, in love with the spiritual world.
100%. And I think that's implicit, like in the goal of finding the force, is like that acknowledgement that it may require some work and some skill
Mm,
and some dedication. But I think the mind is perennially free from the third dimension, and yet it seems so attracted, spirit does, to that dance that, you know, between
right.
matter and 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 energy, the infinite and the finite, right? And we're doing that little dance. It always reminds me a little bit of a flamenco dancer.
Haha,
You know
yes.
those women? It's like they're so fierce, and yet they're just all energy, and it's almost like they're moving on a field, uh, dancing with energy or something.
Yes. Yes. So, what inspired you? Like, what have you been actually sensing and knowing when it comes to guidance, Courtni? What have been guiding you throughout the years? Have you been always aware of those guides, or this is something that you have been uncovering as you go?
That's interesting because in a traditional native way, there is something of a scaffolding that we go through in our training. And it would be expected that as a young woman, by the age of 5, like no later, someone in a tribe would have noticed, or in your family, that you have special gifts. So yeah, you would be communicating. I always saw these little orbs when I was little,
Yeah.
and later, when I was sitting in the kiva and training or going to these different ceremonies, with people from all over the world, these orbs would come in really thick, and they do look a lot like the flower of life sometimes, but spherical and
Yeah.
tiny and bright. Um, and I've always kind of seen those. Do you ever see those? The little balls of light?
No, they are unfamiliar to me for some reason. But anything
Sure.
circle, it always resonates. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, there's something about them, of course.
But yeah, so that's one of the things that children often see, and we think that those may be like guardian spirits or
Yeah.
ancestors, or maybe even in a way of thinking, it could be a different extended part of their consciousness on a different plane. It's not other; it's really just part of them that's protecting them, in the physical, as they're so tiny and cute,
Yeah.
and fragile. I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of spirits that were always around, kind of guiding me. My grandmother, on my mother's side, is full blood Native American, and I spent a lot of time with her.
Yeah.
So I think I probably downloaded a lot of her Native cosmology.
Yeah.
And I don't think she identified it as such because, like, the forest doesn't see itself, but for
Mm,
the
mm.
trees, if that makes sense. I know I probably said that wrong.
Yes, it does, huh?
Culture is transmitted that way. And so
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like you're you're a tree in a forest, but do you have the consciousness of what a forest means? We're so embedded in our culture, or we should be, rightfully, and in a good, healthy culture, um,
Yeah.
in beauty and harmony with both spirit and earth, because the native people weren't as dense in their thinking. They were more spiritual and they were more free. You're embedded in that, and especially if it's a good culture. So the stories and everything, um, it surrounds you, and you're not necessarily aware of it. And so I think part of what I'm trying to do is recreate a more unconflicted state. Like when you said, "Is it possible to be free um, in a body here?" I
Mm,
think we call it unconflicted thinking. Let me
yeah.
There's a book back here. Oh, yeah. The Biology of Transcendence, Joseph Chilton Pierce. I interviewed 10 people 20 years ago about all of this, like exactly what you said. Can we free ourselves from suffering? If so, how?
Yeah.
Why are we here? Um, what the heck happened? Because if we were this dumb forever, um, we wouldn't have made it past the dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying? Like, human beings must have been smarter than this at a certain point, even if only in a tribal way, in terms of being in harmony with the earth and sky, the
Right.
inner world and the outer world.
Yeah.
There's some substantial information to demonstrate that the ancestors were a lot more clever, and that maybe we have unevolved in a lot of ways, and we're kind of like at the butthole of time.
Mm.
We're
Oh,
at like
yeah.
the end of the Kali Yuga in this system, where it kind of should look about like it looks. And we're going through this transition. So I always wondered, like what's going on in the world. I don't think we can be in the state that we're in a permanent way, or human
Mm.
beings wouldn't have survived. Does that make sense? That's how I thought of it as a kid, I guess.
Very much does. And I love what you just said. We cannot be in this state in a permanent way. Well, everything changes, right? In this realm, it's the law of nature. It's always changing, changing, changing. So why hold on to anything that will, eventually change and disappear and dissipate? But going back to what you do, the book and the Church of the Natural Law, I mean, you've been doing so much amazing work. And I know you have a story behind that too. We met before and you mentioned briefly, and I read that on your website or here somewhere, about almost losing the body, speaking of losing the vehicle. So talk to me about that and how did you change after that? What changed after that experience?
That was, I can't help myself because I'm so proud of these books. When I was a kid, and someone would lose like the class president vote by one, and it turns out that they didn't vote for themselves,
Hmm.
the teachers were always like, Bob, like, you didn't vote for yourself? Like, come on, man. You would have
Yeah,
won.
yeah,
So, like, that's literally this book.
yeah.
And I call it Rainmaking, Dreaming a New World While Dying. It's been through a few different iterations, but that's what it was. It was that I was dying and they couldn't figure out why, how. I'm in and out of the emergency room. I look absolutely batshit crazy because the E. coli, turns out, is what it was eating away everything in my body. And so I was in this state of flux where I was having to almost exist as energy and constantly
Yeah.
reproducing my body and my reality. I really relate to what Joe Dispenza did. I feel like I did that several dozen times while I was hovering between worlds. So there I am, I'm between worlds, and it's like a long ayahuasca journey. I would later learn that I was
Mm,
between worlds. Um, and so I'm learning a lot at that point about the nature of reality and how limited our perspective is as humans and how much we could really do.
right.
In order to save my life, I had to find someone who I guess would listen to the insanity that I was talking about because I was having these visions of a different world and an unborn daughter, as yet unborn daughter. My
Yeah.
son was here already and he was a baby. Anyway, lots of mysterious things happened that like led me down the path and I ended up like being almost ushered into interviews with these wonderful human beings. Like I got to meet Miguel Ruiz and his son. I
Mm,
got to meet Masaru Emoto.
yeah.
Uh, a lot of people who've now become extremely famous and impactful, and so that was a blessing. And each one of them gave me a piece of the puzzle that we are actually here and yet we're not. And we
Mm,
do have an influence on it. And the less dense, and like you said, in fear, like the less fear that we're steeped in, the less dense we are. It's fear that actually makes our fears come true.
mm.
And that seems totally unfair. But once I unlock that puppy for you, you're golden.
Yes. Yes.
Like spirit shows it to me like a golden key, and spirit is like, hey, give them these and just unlock it for them and let them open the box and see their power. So that's my jam. I think that a lot of people are tuned up already, that they're psychologically, emotionally, spiritually fit enough that if we put them on the ball court with a couple of like cool tricks,
Mhm.
that we can actually do some amazing stuff. So it's supposed to be also a time of opportunity, according to the oral traditions.
Right. Oh, what kinds of opportunities, Courtney? Would that be spiritual ones or
Yes.
no? Okay, coming from you, had to be. Yes, that dance
Otherwise,
again.
it wouldn't be
Yes.
that interesting. I mean, I do like art and I do like other things, but that
Yeah.
aspect of us that's superhuman, that we have supernatural powers that maybe, just maybe, were deliberately taken away from us so that we
Mm.
wouldn't be able to fight whatever this junk is. You want to call it the Matrix, you want to call it evil, the Lords of Darkness. Ooh, that sounds creepy.
It does, huh? Yes. Wow. Wow. Mm. So, when you spoke of fear, what came to me was, is that the reason we are here? The body mind, the manifestation of body mind. Would you say that fear is at the core of that, Courtney?
It seems to be the main challenge, like in all of these different religions that I delighted in studying. I was in DC and I got to sit with professors from around the world for undergrad. Um, there are so many traditions that are similar, but what it comes down to is the body causes us to fear, causes us to forget. The amygdala can keep us kind of trapped in this fear, fight, flight
Mhm.
cycle. The breath is the way out. The mind is the driver of your vehicle, really. But if you're not in charge, then you're probably in a fight flight cycle. You're in
Mm.
aversion, in avoidance, you're in projection. And your amygdala is going to continue to project all of the same BS stories that got you into the mess that you're currently in until you realize that you can control it.
Mm.
And so it does seem to be the main challenge. I would say lack of information, lack of lack of passion and desire. Like you should want it. People want sex so bad. People want money so bad. People even want those Gucci bags really bad.
Mm.
but why don't they want, like, the
Mm,
joy and
mm,
the freedom? For me, it's freedom. I don't like feeling trapped.
right.
And when I wasn't ready to go, when my children were little and I was sick, I was like, "No, I'm gonna fight my way out of it." And of course, it gets weird with moms and kids, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we get superhuman.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe a little crazy too.
Yeah. Well, that part I don't know, but yes, it's amazing. Yeah, the work that mothers, yeah.
And it's like the passion you have for this project, like, it feels
Mm,
like you're carrying this like it's a sacred baby or a sacred
yes.
thing that you love.
Yes. So you talked about the body and then the mind being this, the driver. So the mind comes before the body, right, Courtney? Because from there's so much evidence that we keep reincarnating, coming back, mind continuation. It's just that energy, as you said, energy looking to manifest itself, to put itself together again, to to realize whatever it is that was left. So it's always seeking something. If this is something that has to be the human experience and navigating this reality of body mind and trying to balance and create the harmony, bringing the the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge into this reality. So how I mean, your work, it's amazing to show that, of course, you're a guide to that world. But I guess the question is, what would you say the first step in is? How can we answer that call of even stepping in, to the journey?
The first step is the breath
Yeah.
and all of the different technologies. Thank you for looping back around to that because we started to get towards it. The
Yeah.
breath. All of them say the same thing. And some people will call it prana, some people will
Yeah.
call it chi. And then we have circuitry. And so mudras, essentially, with the breath, will clear the energy blockages in your body. When we become disconnected from spirit and we're more dense and in fear and we're projecting and we're not present, it's
Mm.
because our energy body has kind of collapsed on itself. And we now have like even monitors like Heart Math has this wonderful little monitor. And again, like I'm not trying to sell anything. Like it's not a multi-level marketing scam or anything. But like seriously, we can clip this thing on our ear
Yeah.
and we have this, and we can plug that into the computer. Or, well, this one's handheld, so you can see the readout. But when we get, and Dispenza talks about this too, when we get into resonance, we call it between mother and father, like our body and our mind,
Yeah.
then, or our infinite energy aspect. Our mind is the thing that connects it. When we can see our mind in a readout on a screen, it turns out that the state is called alpha. And that by doing simple kinds of breath work, the ancient people knew that they were dropping you into a different state of consciousness.
Right.
Every different group of people had their gorgeous, delicious, wonderful way of doing it. And there are different varieties of like finding the force. It's like dialing in and hey, maybe like some Zen flute music is good for one
Mm,
feeling, and maybe some
mm,
flamenco is good for another. They're not the same things. So also part of like the wizardry of the ancient people was the ability to dial into different things, flavors for different crafting a life experience that's beautiful. I think that's why we're attracted here, is because it's possible to do gorgeous things that are so much fun, you know?
yes, right. And that also resonates true, right? Why not be here within the human experience and find harmony and could enjoy this, right? That's the whole point. But it seems like so many of us are not enjoying this journey.
We
So we are
know,
just stuck in suffering, right? In pain.
but we have the
And
tools.
mm. So you actually mentioned that too, the some of the outline that you sent me under vehicle application. You say not everyone is meant to take the lead on this calling. Some people are like the dragonfly. So I know you have a story about the dragonfly too. Well, that's might be a good a good time to talk about that, to tell this story as well. But yeah, like why it feels like some of us um, just so naturally being called to do this, to come from love, to lessen and lessen, fear, and be more open, more trusting in a way. And some others are just still very closed.
But we do make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When people are in a different wavelength, I make them very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They get annoyed because I'm happy and I'm free and I'm doing the things I want to do. And I mean, not 100% of the time. It's not perfect. I'm a mess.
Yeah.
But also, again, people like us been through a lot already
Yeah.
that we go through in order to develop our skills, right? So we've kind of done our spiritual push-ups. Um, and that's one of the things is like you ask yourself, what makes one person like an athlete? Or what
Yeah.
makes one person a singer? And you can feel that they're so good at it. I mean, what makes chocolate my favorite flavor?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a mixture of like what you're born to do and what you practice at. They say you can master anything in 10,000 hours, but who's going to do something for 10,000 hours that they don't like?
Mm. Yes.
They used to make us do things when I was a kid. They still made you do because they knew better, like practicing the flute. I never would
Yes.
have done that. I would have just played outside all day long. So there's that part about yoking also that's part of a lot of these different traditions. The concept of yoking the fours
Yeah.
into this plane to create more beauty, and that like Indra's web and like your flower of life there, we're interconnected. So when you and I have this conversation, we're lighting up, other people will hear it, they'll feel it, and it's like they light up as well. Like the whole
Ah.
web sparks a little bit brighter. But we want to yoke as much light into this plane as we can and
Mm.
also light other people up. But like you said, if they don't feel it and they're going to cause resistance and they're going to cause like a yucky feeling, it's difficult. I think
Yeah.
people feel that a lot at the holidays too, where they're forced into spaces with people that they just don't vibe with.
Right.
Yeah. And it causes a lot of stress, I think, for people.
Yeah.
Those are the phone calls and texts that I've been getting from people. Help.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that resonates very much true. So it goes back to that dance. I call it the dance because it is ever moving of energy and within the interconnectedness of everything. So it's amazing to just see that. So talk to me about the dragonfly story. I know this is I just mentioned earlier, so this might be a good time again to tell that story.
It's perfect. You're so good at this. I like
Yeah.
this. Um, it's very pleasant. Um, the world peace thing, yes, within
Yeah.
and with the tools. And I've hung the tools in a traditional story because that's how we've always done things. It's like the sneaky back door. So now when I tell the story and then we go back and I say, well, key number one is the part where it does this. Key number two, three, and four. A
Yeah.
dragonfly has four wings and they all independently operate, which is what makes it like a miracle of nature. But it
Right.
also goes through a transformation that no other creature goes through. It's one of the oldest insects on the planet, maybe the oldest. It's
Mm.
way older than dinosaurs. And they used to be bigger too, this family. So, yeah, it turns up in the water as an egg, right? The dragonfly, sometimes you'll see them flying around and they're mating as they're flying up to 70 miles per hour. Wow. Um, Sounds like some of the guys I know. No, I'm just kidding. I had to say it though.
Yeah, I know you had to say it.
New York is crazy, right? But, so the larva lives underwater and it looks like a little crawdad, like kind of like a little lobster. It's not like other things. So in this story, I talk about how they all live together under a tree. The tree is a symbol of the mind, so it's a nice part of the story. And like the tadpole, which is a baby frog, the fish, which is a small fish, comes from an egg. They all come from eggs, but each
Yeah.
one of these different things is different. And when people were in touch with nature, like in Native America, probably in nice parts of other countries too, you have those stories intact. So, the fish, it's going to get bigger and swim upstream as it grows up. The tadpole is going to turn into a frog. It's going to be able to go on land and in water. But the dragonfly, after 2 years is going to crawl out of the water where it was breathing underwater, and it's going to have to breathe air, which is a nice analogy too for the whole physical to spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And that dragonfly is going to be exposed on a branch, like
Yeah.
in the air, until its wings set, so that each one of those four puppies is going to operate independently. They can hover, they can stop on a dime, they can do things that most modern helicopters can't do. Um, so they go from being a crawdad in the mud to being the fastest insect on the planet. Anyway, the point is that dragonfly, it never goes back to live in the mud. The
Yeah.
fish is never going to fly. And even though the frog can get up on land and go back to water, it's not going to fly either.
Right.
So I tell people, if you're a dragonfly person, you don't have any choice. You're going to be called to this. You're going to feel crazy if you try to do anything else. You've probably tried everything. At this point, my ideal person to work with is someone at your level and your audience's level, which is how I found you, because you're amazing. And I was like,
Mm.
oh gosh, like if I could talk to her, I bet she knows a bunch of people who would be in a good way,
Mm.
because you can't, it's like wanting to play NFL football and you've never picked up, you don't even have cleats. You've never been on a field and you're like, I'm going to be a quarterback. That's not going to happen, my friend.
Mm.
It's a good dream. But there is that thing that Native Americans do so well, which is like they tell you, yeah, it's possible that you're going to fly, but only if you're a dragonfly type of person. If you're a frog, you're a frog. If you're a fish, you're a fish.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. That makes us, the question is, how do we know we're a dragonfly? Is that something, that's an assessment that you also do, Courtney? I know you have like a practical way of assessing that.
When people call me, yeah, I have to talk to people. I used to let
Right.
people just register on the website, and it wasn't good because sometimes you don't know until it's too late that someone either hasn't done their work
Yeah.
or they have all these problems that they're just going to project them on the leader of the ceremony, on other people. A lot of times it can be very frustrating.
Mm.
I hear that in Brazil it goes a lot more smoothly because people have the culture already, and there's so many maestros and maestras all together in one room that they shift the energy in a way. But one person who hasn't got the capacity to really fly can kind of drag everyone down.
Mm.
So how do I know? I know because that person is going to say things like, um, I felt the calling to do something. I've tried everything. I'm doing great with it. Like they might have done like martial arts, yoga, whatever, fitness. They're going to have had some time in rank.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's an indicator. Like somebody can't just be like, oh, I went to a yoga class last week at the Y. I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Usually when I talk to people like about the diet, they already are very close. You know, I don't have to tell them, "Hey, don't drink a gallon of wine at the holidays," or,
Right. Right.
"Lay off of the cake," or, "Eat organic." No, usually they're already, because it takes time for the body to really be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. That really makes sense. Right. So you have to have this the history of practice of being at least open to
Well,
it, but you have to be, yeah, like you said, hands on. You got to be actually in the field, have done some before. Yeah, that really resonates. True, it's not different with spiritual practices, right? You mentioned sports, but spirituality is the same thing. Yes. So I guess that takes us to the void, because I have here outlined. So release the old, create new meaning by using the mind properly. You have talked about this, and the ayahuasca. It's held. The ceremonies are held once a month in New York, right, Courtney? Is that correct? Oh, in New York, New Mexico, and Brazil, just once a month.
first Fridays in New York because I live here. So we have our
Yeah,
sanctuary 45 minutes east of Manhattan.
yeah,
It's really easy to get to. So I'm doing first Fridays at like a big discount so that people who've journeyed a lot can come and have a place where they feel comfortable. And we're
yeah.
also like, I can introduce them to a few new concepts. People who are almost like facilitators, they're at a certain level where when I give them a toolkit, it's like my grandfather played all different instruments. And so he could walk up to any instrument and play it. Or like speaking languages, right? When people are kind of like spiritually swole, like fit already, then they can show up and take this and be like, oh, wow, I love this, right? Um,
Mm,
and they'll get it. And I want to touch those people anyway. So I'm making it possible for people to come once a month. I think it's like $5.99 for an overnight, which is really great because it's a small group and they're experienced. That's First
right.
Fridays in New York. I'm looking at it. It's like, yeah, January 5th, that's coming up, February 2nd, March 1st, April 1st.
That's good to
So
know.
if you're someone who's done this already, that would be the easiest thing. I have people fly in because JFK is so easy to get to, and the transportation in Long Island is clean and fast. It runs on time.
Right.
It's very professional and clean feeling here too, if that makes sense. And
Yes.
some
Yeah.
people who want like the Amazonian, like they want to see jaguars and serpents. They want bugs crawling all over them. Not me, my
No.
friends. You're not
Right.
gonna have that experience.
So you see, speaking of opportunity, as you said before, that's a beautiful one, right? For anyone who is ready to join this. Wow, coming up. So you also do you said the most popular is actually one-on-one. It doesn't have to be in a group, right, Courtney? It could be just you and the person as well. That sounds wonderful too.
It's gorgeous. It's my favorite.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds wonderful. So they have to contact you first. You have to have a conversation with them over the phone, Zoom.
Whatever they want, whatever's easiest right away. Like you and I
Yeah.
are so used to being on the computer, and I have a studio where it's just I walk in and 24/7 I can do this. Other people, they like to chat on the phone. That's fine with me
Yeah,
too.
it
But just so
depends.
they can
Yeah.
hear me and I can hear them. And I can tell them these things like if you're not already doing anything, I'm not the retreat for you.
Yeah. So you're very honest. Honesty is very important. Yeah, and clarity.
Yeah, and also, it's a financial commitment and it's an 8-week process.
Yeah.
The ones where it's a drop-in are ones for people who've already done this, and then we have a longer conversation, like an hour or 2, where I vet them and I send them I make sure that they're gonna do all the materials because there's an actual workbook.
Oh, yeah.
The workbook leads you
Yeah.
to be able to follow along in ceremony.
Yeah. How to journey. That's the book. Right.
There are little, like, journaling prompts, and they're really, really concrete, amazing,
Yes.
awesome things that you do where you learn about your psyche and you learn about the breathing, you learn just the basic stuff.
Yes. Yes. That's wonderful that you did that. It's like workbook for those. Actually in psychology they call integration. It's the same thing, isn't it, Courtney? It's the integration phase.
We're creating containers like they do with EMDR, right? You create a mental container. You have your vision, you have your body, you have your feelings, and you have your thoughts. They're not all the same thing. But if you do
Mm,
all 4 of those in balance, like the 4 wings of the dragonfly, that's when you start to elevate in consciousness. And your ayahuasca is going to help you to move into those other dimensions and those more refined, energetic fields, let's call them,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, but if you're not able to hear it because you haven't got the practice or the ear for it, like we say in music, you're going to miss out on a lot of the fun. And then I
Mm.
get people who say, I didn't feel anything. My least favorite remark. And I go,
Yeah.
well, as we do ceremony, so we do life. In other words, look, Bob, like it's probably across the board for you that you're not feeling anything. When was the last time you cried? When was the last time
Mm.
you breathed? When was the last time you like really felt passionate about
Mm.
anything?
I mean, so many people are not really fully here, right? They're just everywhere in the past, in the future. They just let the mind do whatever it does, but they're never present. So, yeah, of course, we miss out a lot by being that way. We miss the magic, actually. So, going back to what, gosh, you said so many amazing things. Yeah. So, when you choosing what psychedelic, what journey to have, what's the medicine to use. Some people choose ayahuasca, some people prefer mushrooms, magic mushrooms, some people choose something else. So is that something that you talk about as well? That you are able to identify before you have them as in a ceremony?
Yeah, 100%, because we do different things. We have different programs.
Yeah.
Um, During COVID, we actually acquired the right to mail things that weren't allowed before as sacrament.
Mm,
And so we're able to help people at a distance, and we're able to, go through, like when I do an intake interview, it's a simple process. It's like an hour and a half. And we go through this process where we figure out, and that's a paid experience. I am not afraid to say that it should be. And that usually determines what happens next. Are you going to microdose with me and we can go through this book
mm,
together,
yeah.
the workbook, and they buy it. We go through it in like a 4-stage process. Um, are they qualified for an ayahuasca experience?
Mm,
Is that even appropriate for them? Because they can't be. I'm not doing anything. People want me to help them journey when they're just getting off of the SSRIs, and I would rather they do that somewhere else. You have to be off of all medications for at least a month. You have to be committed to not drinking, not smoking weed, really avoiding tobacco, avoiding sex, not because sex is bad, but because the mixing energies.
mm,
If you're having troubles with your partner or someone who's close to you in life, you want to disengage those energies
yeah.
so that you can more readily identify like what your pattern is rather than like going in there praying for someone else. It's better to get to know yourself because you have your own answers, right?
Yeah.
Well, so things like that.
Yeah.
People have to be willing to engage. I have a group activity. I have a little game. It's my
Oh, yeah.
little consulting package where I go in and we play this game. Um, I take people, even no matter who,
Yeah.
any group, any corporation. It's unreligious, irreligious. It's just very cut and dry. It's a story about consciousness, about the
Yes.
journey of a quantum particle, and we take people on a soundscape journey. Because in Native America, we use the drums a lot to change people's
Oh, yeah.
brainwaves. I guess would be the technical word, right? Shift consciousness.
Right. Right. It's the rewire.
Yeah, so we shift people, we teach them the meditation, and off you go. That's my little consulting package.
Yes.
And I like to do that on the ayahuasca retreats as well. We're having a big one where it's like a 5-day experience in Brazil, in New Mexico, where it's a more expensive package, but you're going to get an 8-week training. So 4 weeks
Yeah.
before, 4 weeks after. Stem cell technology we have now. We have something called light wave that helps your body to rebuild itself. Of course, it's light
Yeah.
and your own body can do it. So we give people these patches, we give them a nutritional program, we give them kind of like a fitness program and a little bit more coaching for before and after.
Right.
And we take them on that journey. I think it's important to have a story in your head so you know where you're at, like a compass. Stories are like mental compasses in a way, or like a map and compass,
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's so ambiguous, right? This thing about culture. It's the feminine part of life. It's the intangible quality, essence, emotion. I don't know, the unseen, right?
Yes. Right. The unseen. That's right.
That runs everything.
Gosh. Yeah. Yes. I can just rest in that. Yeah. The unseen. So I love how you have structured everything. This more of the male part of us that's very good at it. The masculine energy is great at executing right steps, and so you're very good at that too, which shows us that you have this very beautiful balance between the feminine and the masculine. They're working with one another. So there's no gaps, right? No splits. They're just doing what they're here to do. That's really beautiful, Courtney. It's not, yeah, that's not easy to get where you are. That took a lot of exercise, push up, spiritual push ups, as you said. I like that. I like that. You
And
developed
also
some
a
big
good
biceps. Yes.
I go to the gym every day as well. And I do yoga every day. Just our physical body. It's
Yeah.
difficult to be in this world without constantly attending to the body. But maybe what if that isn't a burden? Maybe if that's what we came here for, you know?
Yes, yes. I do have that. A part of me says that very loudly. Yes, we are here to enjoy this experience, just have fun in a healthy way, in a balanced way. So that's the whole point. So, going back to your book, the one that I have here, I didn't look. I looked on Amazon. I saw the other ones too, but the one that you sent a copy to me to look over is "How to Journey with Ayahuasca, Mushrooms, Cannabis, or Drums." So you can actually do it. The journey can be done also with drums alone, right, Courtney? You don't have to have a substance. We don't have to engage, have anything within the body in the sense of ayahuasca mushrooms or anything else.
That's what the elders told me. They said it's not about the medicine, it's about the mind. But the medicine is almost like a mother that's like,
Yeah.
here, let me like feed you a little bit, like so that you get used to this feeling and then you can find it on your own. That's
Mm.
why that little device is great because it shows you the brain waves, a lot like Joe Dispenza's stuff, where
Yeah.
you can show where once we go within and we get this heart brain resonance, then we become much more expansive. The field around our heart gets stronger, more coherent, and it goes bop, boom, and it gets big, and that becomes a vehicle. But the drums, the way we do them, do you mind if I just grab it? Because it's right here.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
My uncle is a drum maker in Taos,
Oh,
and
wow.
some of my ancestors were from that area. So it's really great to
Yeah, that's fun.
share. I have a drum that's a hang drum that's metal, and then I have the traditional native one. I also have wooden flutes that I play, but we
Wow.
typically don't play during ceremony. Like what you're alluding to, music is its own medicine,
Oh, yes.
and medicine wants to be on its own. But a lot of the Amazonian people, they obviously sing a lot during ceremony, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so on and so on. You can see it's a little bit hypnotic, and then the clicking
Yeah.
also keeps your brain a little bit off guard, I guess, because the chatter comes from your brain being in a certain state, right? When you can quiet the chatter, you shift into the non-ordinary reality or the spirit world. And the
Mm.
goal is that if you go there enough with medicine, or if you're in a group where other people's energy kind of provides a vehicle, because our minds actually make a big bubble of
Mm.
energy, and those of us who have a clear mind can make a bigger one, and we kind of like usher the other people through.
Yeah.
Once you get used to it, though, you should be able to do it on your own, and this is what that's saying.
Yeah.
Also, cannabis, I know it's so popular and everything, and I'm so happy, but at the same time, it's medicine, and we shouldn't use it too much to party because it
Mm.
uh, burns through chemicals that you need for other stuff, I think. It makes
Yes.
people a little bit dull and like fuzzy. But if you use it properly, it can be really helpful for journeying as well.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that. That's great education for all of us. Yes, right.
I'm highly unjudgmental and just trying to be helpful.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, we need to hear these things because you see, a lot of times we try to escape, right? Our minds and the content of the mind, pain, and then we go for alcohol. So many people go for different things. We were just escaping something that's unescapable, really. It keeps coming back. It's still there. It never goes away. So, yeah, that's a very good message for all of us to be reminded of, not to use certain substance, actually, not to try to escape our own feelings. That never happen, never works.
Right? It's better to lean into it and ask yourself questions.
Oh,
I love
yes.
to ask myself questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Where is that sitting in your body? Does that hurt your heart or does that hit you here? Like where's the anxiety hitting you physically and what does it feel like? I
Mm,
think people typically shy away from it. And that's that aversion, the avoidance behavior you're talking about. That, it's part of the fear, death, lack of control, people having been violated, never feeling safe. And that's the part where I think seeing the children who are hungry or the people in war zones, I think our society right now is inherently unfair. It's inherently crippling of the spirit. It makes it so most of the sensitive people end up being either institutionalized or, so raw from the pain of life that they do tend
Mm,
to drink to numb, and there millions of ways of avoiding what you're feeling. So I think microdosing is something that I've been working with a lot at a distance. And when people are willing to do their work and take this microdosing, it allows their neural networks the opportunity to shift.
mm,
And so it's like Michael Pollan says, it's like taking a sled, and once you've worn a track in, it's going to stay on those tracks a lot. Well, microdosing helps with neural plasticity. So our sled can go, you know what, let's go over here this time,
yeah,
and make new patterns. But the reason why I made this book is because we need to do the dance with it. We need to know how to work with the medicine. And then it's like magic.
yeah. So we're almost at the end of this interview for today. Courtney, it has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being you again. Thank you for answering the call, all the calls that you have gotten from life and having the courage, because that's what it takes, and a great courage to cross that door. It's not an easy one. So thank you so much for having the courage to be you. Thank you. So before we say goodbye for today, I want to mention your website. So churchofthenaturallaw.org is one, findtheforce.com is two, and you have a third one that for some reason I don't have it here.
Courtni Hale, Courtni with an I, Courtni, Hale is my art website. But mostly it's Church of the Natural Law and Finding the Force.
Yeah.
So those are pretty easy. One is more about the coaching, and the keynote is findingtheforce.com.
Yes.
And then the church is, yeah, the more native, more psychedelic kind of thing.
Yes. Gosh, I love everything about the work you do. It's just so inspiring. The art is beautiful. I saw a lot of your paintings. I said that before. It's so beautiful. I love the colors. So before we say goodbye for today, I usually ask a question that I ask everyone. So I'll ask you too. What three experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
I think that everyone really should have a journey into the spirit world and learn more about their inner being. Because
Mm,
if you're going to lay down your physical vehicle and it goes back to the earth, what is it that goes on? That's the part that's really you. You should get to know that, how to drive that vehicle,
mm,
right? How to
mm,
navigate that. And also so that you're not afraid, because the more difficult of the two experiences is actually having the body is more difficult.
mm. Wow.
The other world, once you know the rules and how it works, it's not too bad at all. But it's not as cozy as being human. That's something that Castaneda said. And that would be the second thing that I would wish for people, is that they would like be able to have like that fireside under the vast star experience of really appreciating the beauty of being human.
Yeah.
Castaneda said it. Nothing quite so cozy as being human. That's why we come back here over and over. And the third thing,
Yeah.
really good chocolate, maybe really good wine. I'm not ashamed. I just,
Mm,
I love cheese and wine. And I love that feeling of having worked hard enough that I can break the rules a little bit and relax. I like to work hard. I wish for everyone to have the feeling of knowing what's enough,
mm,
knowing that feeling of satiety and that Zen feeling of, I have worked and I have done something amazing.
Wow. Ah, yes. I love your wisdom. Yes, right. And knowing that we have done enough. That's a beautiful, that's very inspiring too, especially when you see the fear-based reality of not feeling that we have done enough, we have enough. So it's all about greed, have more, more, more. And then we are just kind of, we're killing everything. We're just destroying everything by just wanting more. So that enough is just a powerful message too. And going beyond that in a way, knowing that we are what we are looking for. We are already that. It's already here. What else?
Yeah, and that's the right, the always wanting more. That's the
Mm,
mental illness. That's the actually death avoidance is that more. And that they say, what's an alcoholic's favorite word or an addict's favorite word? More. But that addictive nature
ah,
in each of us, that's the avoidance. It's the not enough.
mm,
Either the past wasn't enough and I got to try to fix it. That's depression. And the future needs to be different. And so I got to fix it. That's anxiety. And both
yes.
of those are avoiding the force, which is here and now all the time, like you say, right?
Ah, oh my God, Courtney. Yes, that's it. You see, if we can understand that, be present to that truth for a second, that could change everything. Wait a minute. This is enough. I am enough. This is beautiful as it is. That would change everything from moment to moment, kind of having that presence, having this knowledge, this true knowledge. Thank you so much again, Courtney, for being you. Thank you. Thank you again for your
Thank
presence. And we'll
you.
talk soon. We'll be in touch again. Bye for now.